Healing Hands Health Society presents Dental Webinar Series. We have planned a series dental webinars to keep you abreast of current practice. This series on prosthodontics will be via Zoom, Facebook Live. Presenters are drawn from dental schools in the USA, private practitioners from around the world. To register for future webinars, visit www.hhands.org/dental-training. For future inquiries, contact Facilitator.
This is Dr. Uvo Honore, Real Relationships Television. Today we have the privilege of having back on this forum Dr. Sree Koka, a man of many parts, and he will be speaking on the sweet spot. You know, what kind of decisions are you making in your life? Are you living with regrets? You want to learn how to maximize your potential, how to discover your purpose, and to just make sure that you're living a fulfilled life. Whatever and wherever you are, I need you to call your friends and tell them, you know, this is going to do you good. Dr. Sree Koka, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Uvo. Thank you so much for having me back. It's very kind of you.
All right. Today's zone is pretty special, and I want to. I don't know what Dr. Koka's plan, but I really truly want to dedicate today's session to my mother, who slept and went to the great beyond a couple of days ago. It's still very fresh in our hearts, and but she was a woman of purpose. She knew exactly what she wanted. And that is what I want to remember about her. She knew exactly why she was here, and she lives to be 82 and had a wonderful life. I believe that she's smiling where she is right now and looking down on us and encouraging us to do what we need to do. That is why I said I was not going to postpone today's talk. It was already planned before time, and I think she will be happy that we continue doing the best that we could do for ourselves and for humanity. Dr. Sree Koka, please go ahead and just take over, and we'll come back and talk when you're done with the initial presentation.
Uvo, thank you very much again for giving me this opportunity. Yes, I would like to send you and your family my personal condolences, and from everyone around the world that your mother has touched and that you've touched. This is a sad week to lose her, and hopefully all the good things that she represents and the impact she had on the world can live on through us following in her footsteps and doing the right thing for the right reasons. The two greatest gifts I think that you can give someone are love and time, and you know, I know, Uvo, that she gave you both of those beyond imagination. So my condolences to you and your family. Uvo mentioned that we're going to talk about decision making, and I will argue for all of you that ultimately the contentment and joy and impact you have on the world all depends upon the decisions that you make. And you could define, therefore, life as being a collection of decisions. Some of these decisions are really very innocuous. You know, it's, am I going to wear blue socks today or black socks today? Or am I going to eat at this restaurant or that restaurant? The consequences probably aren't that serious if you happen to make the choice that wasn't the perfect one. But then there are other decisions we make that if we get them wrong, it's a real problem. And because the stakes are much higher when it comes to those decisions. What career do I want to choose? Where do I want to live? Who do I want to marry? Who do I not want to marry? Do I want to have children? How many children? You can see how these decisions, therefore, are big ones. And the better we can become at making good decisions, especially on these critical ones, the much more likely we are to live a life that has contentment for us and for those in our life, and also allow us to be freed up mentally then to have greater impact. This is a classic business school paper called What is Strategy by Michael Porter. Michael Porter is a professor at Harvard Business School. And everyone uses the word strategy, especially in the corporate world, but even in life in general, we talk about our strategy for being successful. And Porter says, well, what actually is strategy? It's a word that's used a lot. But if you had to define it, how would you define it? And Porter argues in this paper that strategy is really about being sustainably different. So if you look at it from a company's point of view, a company that is different, that offers something unique, and if they're very successful offering that unique thing or group of things, the first thing that's going to happen when somebody sees somebody else be successful is they're going to copy that person. So let's say you're in a private practice and dentists drive by your practice, your colleagues, but who are also your competitors, and they see patients lined up outside your door, dying to come in to see you. The first thing they're going to do is say, what is that dentist doing? And then when they find out, they're going to copy it. So Porter's argument is that it's not that hard to offer something unique. It's a little bit harder to offer something that's unique, that's of value to people, but it's really hard to offer something that is unique, of value to people, and which you can keep that advantage over a long period of time. And here, sustainable may be half a generation or a generation or more. So if you think about the corporate world, the companies that have succeeded over a long period of time, the IBMs, the American Expresses, for example, they've been able to offer something different that it was very hard for other people to copy. So then how do you make those decisions? How do you make the decisions that are good for you as an individual, good for your practice, your department, your team, your family? And in some ways, are those really different entities? And I'm going to argue that they're not, that you are as intertwined with the people and the programs around you as they are with you. And you really can't take yourself out of them. So you have to think of everybody, not just you, in the decisions that you make. So how do you do that? Well, I'm going to suggest you manage your sweet spot, the title of this lecture. And when you are born, age is on the x-axis here. When you're born, you have very little wisdom, right? We have a little bit of intuition, maybe instinct, but wisdom comes from two things. It comes from having new experiences in life, but it also comes from learning from those new experiences. So let's say you had a bunch of new experiences, but you didn't learn from them. You would be experienced. You wouldn't be wise. So wisdom goes up during your lifetime as you experience more and more new things and you learn from them. But then there comes a point in your life where the number of new things that you can be experiencing is beginning to table off or plateau because you've already experienced a bunch. You can still learn from those experiences and reflect on them. So your wisdom can keep going up, but the curve, the steepness of the curve begins to level out. On the other hand, when you're born, you've got all this energy, right? You're running around like as kids all day long. You look at kids today and I think, where do they get all their energy from, right? I'm tired just watching them. Then there comes a point in your life where that energy begins to also table off. And you don't have as much energy later in life as you did earlier in life. So where those two lines cross, from a concept point of view, I'm going to argue that that's your sweet spot. And it's very much built around the fact that there are times in our life where we might have different amounts of energy or different amounts of wisdom. But if we can find that time in our life, and here's the definition of the sweet spot, that time in our life when we have sufficient energy to use all the wisdom we have, and sufficient wisdom to use the energy that we have, if we can find that time of our life, then we're in the sweet spot. And this is important because you have to understand that as you go through life, I drew that wisdom curve initially as if it was this nice, smooth line. But based upon the definition I've given you about how you get wisdom, you can understand that that line is not smooth. That line is going to have kinks in it. It's going to have certain periods of time where you're not getting that much wiser, and you're going to have certain periods of your life where you're getting very much wiser. And the times when you get much wiser are when you go through the biggest changes in your life, because that's when you're experiencing the most stuff that is new. And as you learn from those experiences, the good and the bad, the ugly and the healthy, what were the good outcomes, what were the bad outcomes, and you start thinking about why things happen the way they happen, you become wiser. I think it was Thomas Edison that said, I learned far more from the experiments that didn't work than from the ones that did, right? And a lot of times we do learn from our failures. But again, if you've learned from it, it's probably not as much of a failure as you might have thought at the beginning. So in reality, these kinks in the wisdom curve come when you do the big new things. Why is this important? It's important because when you're in your sweet spot, that is the zone of maximum efficiency when it comes to making decisions. And what I mean by that is if you are on this graph to the left of the sweet spot, let's say you're younger and you haven't got enough wisdom yet. Because you've got all this energy, you're making lots of decisions, you're doing this, that, and the other, but those decisions aren't of high quality because you don't have enough wisdom yet for them to be of high quality. When you're on the right side of the sweet spot, well, you've got a lot of wisdom, but you don't have so much energy. So although the quality of your decisions may be better because you're wiser, the number of decisions that you're making is less because you just don't have as much energy. So this sweet spot is critical to get into. And I will argue that if this is the center of your sweet spot, the thing that you need to worry about is how do I get into that sweet spot and get to that center as soon as possible in your life. And make your decisions so that you can experience more new things. For me, I grew up in England. When I left England at the age of 19 to move to America, big change. Getting married, big change. Changing jobs, big change. Changing even career paths, big change. Getting divorced, big change. Getting remarried, big change. When your loved ones pass away, or big change, right? The grief and all the things that make you reflect deeply are the things that allow you to become wiser. And the more of those experiences that you can build in, the ones that you can control, the quicker you're going to become wiser, and the quicker you're going to get into your sweet spot, and the more energy you're going to have in your sweet spot. So if you can stretch your sweet spot, before I showed you a little orange oval as the sweet spot. Now I've got a bigger, broader blue one that has moved to the left. You might now get to the center of your sweet spot 3 to 5 years sooner than you would have. But you might actually even get into your sweet spot 8 to 10 years sooner. And I'm just making up these numbers to make my point. But I want you to stop and think just for a few seconds. How would your life be different if you knew 10 years ago what you know today? If you had that wisdom that you have today 10 years ago, I bet you your life would be pretty different. And in some of your cases, very, very different, right? So this whole concept of the sweet spot is really my personal variation on that phrase of, I wish I knew then what I know now. My point, though, is that you can actually change your sweet spot and change that equation by the decisions you make and the experiences you choose to have. So let me just share with you just a few reflections that have stretched my sweet spot. And hopefully then maybe they'll stretch yours and change the way you look at the world and look at your own place in the world. Adam Grant is a business school professor, and he wrote a book a few years ago called Give and Take. And he says there's 3 kinds of people in the world: givers, matchers, and takers. Givers love to give stuff. If I just come up to Ubo and I go, Ubo, here's $20. Here's $20. Just go spend it and do something nice for yourself. And I do it unsolicited. I just feel like giving him something. I'm a giver. If Ubo says, Sree, thank you, that's very nice of you for giving me that $20. I didn't ask for it, but I gave it to him, and he takes it, and he leaves, and he has no thoughts or concepts of wanting to give something back. Ubo's a taker. Now, if Ubo leaves and says, well, that was very nice of Sree, I'm going to enjoy spending this $20, but I want to give something back to him. If he's the type of guy that whatever he gives back, in his mind, he subconsciously or even consciously calculates that it's about the same value, about $20 worth of something, he's a matcher. If he wants to give back, but he has no limits in what he gives back, maybe it's something that's of value much greater than 20, then he's a giver as well. So with that general definition of givers, matchers, and takers, Adam Grant does a bunch of research, and he asks which of these 3 types of people loses in the business world. So I want you to think for a couple of seconds, who would you say? Would you say it's a giver that loses, a matcher that loses, or a taker that loses? And if I'm giving this presentation live with an audience in front of me, I ask you to raise your hands and tell me your answers. And it turns out from Grant's work that givers are most frequently the losers. So now he asks the next question, which is who wins in the business world? And when I say win and lose, it's who's climbing the ladder, who's getting promotions, who's doing better and becoming more successful in that traditional business world sense. So he asks the same question, who wins in the business world? We know that givers are most frequently the losers, but I have people raise their hands and they will choose givers, matchers, and takers. And it turns out that givers are also most frequently the winners. And if you read this book, Give and Take, it will tell you, it will explain to you the types of giving that lead to you losing and the types of giving that lead to you winning. And the point here is that there are ways to be very generous and very giving that enhance you and enhance your success in the world. Giving is not a weakness. Now, there are certain types of giving that will compromise you. And so I recommend you go get the book and you'll be able to distinguish between the two. And I have to say, I learned so much reading this book and I have changed the way I behave based upon what I read. Priya Parker wrote a book actually on how to create perfect meetings, whether it's a meeting of 2 people or a meeting of 2,000, whether it's an informal meeting or a formal meeting, whether it's a social meeting or whether it's professional meetings. You can go buy her book as well. But in this book, she makes this statement: it is a border that makes a nation. And when we're conceived in the womb, do we have a nationality? No. It's the day we're born that we are immediately born as a Nigerian or an American or an Indian or an Englishman or whatever it is. And that nationality that we have has many pros, but it also has many cons because it inherently stops us from all being part of the human race together and starts placing a division around which wars have been fought and many terrible things have happened. We may take pride in our nation at the Olympic Games if one of our country's athletes wins a gold medal, and that's fantastic. But so much of our world conflict is because of nations and the fact that nations are competing with each other. So think about that. The less or the fewer borders you can have between you and somebody else, the fewer barriers that allow you to connect to somebody else, the better off you are. We're all humans. We have the same core needs: love, time, compassion, kindness. These are the things that really, really matter. And anything that gets in the way of being able to appreciate those, receive those, and give those is a problem. It stops us from being the best we can be. The past is a place of reference, not a place of residence. This is a very important quote I hope you remember. For me, it's been good. I don't tend to live in the past that much, but if I'm going to become wiser, it's going to be because of the experiences I had in the past, things that I learned, points of reference that I could take forward with me and become wiser. Because I don't want to live out the rest of my life based exactly on how the past has been, because then my future is my past and my past is my future. And that's not going to do us any good. That's not going to move the world forward. That's not going to improve the world around us. So people who live in the past are probably unlikely to change the world for the better. And, if we don't change the world for the better, we're not going to have less conflict, more kindness, more love, the things, again, that really matter. We have to constantly be looking for ways to do that. There's a great line that I live my life by as well. Again, another reflection that has stretched my sweet spot. Mijin Choi is a prosthodontist. She's fantastic. She teaches prosthodontics at New York University. And Mijin once said this to me. The story leading up to this statement is not so important, but I said to her, she was describing something she had done in her life, and I said, wow, did you ever worry that it might not work, that you might fail on that path? And she said, Sree, I don't fear failure. I fear regret. And this is a great line. I think the things that you want to look forward to in life, the things that draw you towards them, again, we've mentioned some already, compassion, kindness, love. That's great. Those are the positive things. But there's also things that you want to try and get away from. You don't want in your life. And I think regret is one of the most important things to try and avoid. So when I have students or younger colleagues or people that I'm mentoring come to me and ask me for advice, should they take this path or this path or this path? I don't get into the objectives of it. I don't get into the details or the data. I just say, deep down within you, when you look back on this decision 20 or 30 or 40 years from now, which of these paths, taking the path, without knowing what's going to happen, but which of these paths, because you didn't take it, would you regret not taking it? So the line I have is that I want people to live, or I suggest people to live their lives by choosing always the path of least regret. Because then when you get to the end of your life, you're going to have no regrets, or as few regrets as possible. Imagine being near the end of your life and looking back and regretting. And I'll tell you this, most people, research is pretty clear, most people regret the things that they did not do. They don't regret the things they did. They regret that they didn't overcome their fears of other things, such as failure, and instead succumbed to that fear of failure and didn't do something. The other thing I want you to realize is that your sweet spot is your time. I know, and I feel like I'm in my sweet spot now, but I also know that I'm sensitive to the fact that I need to be aware of when I'm no longer in it, that I've come out the other side. My energy is dropping off. I cannot be what I need to be for others at all times. Understand that you will have your time in the sweet spot, but once it's done, you got to get out of the way, because there's a bunch of people coming behind you that are entering their sweet spots. And it's their turn. It's their turn to change the world. You had your turn. When I look at people who, unfortunately, in my opinion at least, they don't recognize that what they have to offer is on the other side of the sweet spot, and they want to hang on, whether it's for ego, whatever it is, they don't want to let go, then I think they harm their legacy in the long run. You hear that phrase from athletes, sportsmen and sportswomen who say, I'm going to retire. And people look at them and say, oh, but you have so much more to give. And they'll say, yeah, but I want to retire on my terms, and I want to go out on top. I don't want to be that athlete that hangs on too long and becomes a shadow or a ghost of what I used to be. So, old men, this is Tennyson's quote, but old people must die, or the future will grow moldy. It will breathe the past again. You will have your time in the sun, but you must accept that you have to get out of the way. So I'm going to end with 2 slides. William Fagey is a physician. He used to be head of the CDC many years ago when smallpox was eradicated from the globe. And he spoke at a graduation ceremony that I attended recently, well, actually 2 years ago. And he gave the graduates, the medical school graduates, 7 things to live by. And this is the one he quoted and finished with. He said, look, you're going to finish medical school today, you're going to do your residencies, you're going to get jobs, you're going to settle down, you're going to raise families, you're going to put down roots. And when someone says to you, where are you from? Where is your home? You might reply, well, my home is Addis Ababa, or my home is Melbourne, or it's San Diego, or it's London, or it's Reykjavik. He goes, I want you to stop and think about what you're saying. You are saying that your home is where you are from. But here you are as healers, as healthcare providers, as people who have been fortunate to have received a wonderful education, and you have skills and capabilities. Is that really where you think your home is? A place? A physical place, like a city, or a suburb, or a house on a street? says, I want you to stand back and realize that home is not where you are from. Home is where you are needed, where you can take all the things that you have been given and learned and worked hard to accomplish, and take those things, especially when you're in your sweet spot, and stand back and say, okay, I've got these capabilities, I've got this wisdom, I've got this energy. Where am I needed so I can put these capabilities to the best possible use? So I hope you've enjoyed that little bit of interaction there. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And Uvo, I suspect you will have some difficult questions for me like you did last time, and maybe some questions from the audience as well.
Last time we had we talked about grief. I didn't know that my mom was not going to be around. So, but it's something that you need to consider in life in terms of how to deal with issues like this. And we had an interesting talk in terms of when she became sick, and we started talking about just being real and say, okay, what are the things you are going to regret? You know, I think you're going to regret words that were not spoken, or things that you needed to say and that you didn't say, and just to show love. So I mean, so wherever you are, if you're watching, you know that thing about regrets. You don't want to live with regrets. I mean, my mom is not here today, and I'm good, because in terms of every one of us, all our children ran. You know, we did everything just to let her know that we are taking care of this. And mom was content because she knew that she was in a place where she wasn't, there was no struggle, you know. And I'm just going to, I'll put up something, but what can we do? I mean, there are folks who live looking behind, always in, you know, what can one really do when you look at some actions you're taking? Some people are living they're in relationships where they regret every day the decision they made. You know, she's like, you know, so you're like, I am in this relationship. I think I shouldn't be here, and I'm living in regret. What should somebody do who feels that way on a daily basis and is not happy and just not content?
Yeah, I think to build on your comment about grief, Hugo, I heard this quote recently, and it says, "The bitterest of tears shed over graves are for words left unsaid and deeds left undone." It's a beautiful quote.
That's pretty powerful.
Pretty powerful, right? Harriet Beecher Stowe is the woman that made that statement. And there is the rational side of us as humans, and there is the irrational side of us as humans, you know. And I do think that when people are in relationships that aren't the greatest, there's many different competing thoughts, you know. I was raised very much to think that all of my actions affect the reputation of my family. So if I were to leave a relationship or go through a divorce, that wouldn't look good for the family. So there's a pressure there, right? It's one kind of pressure. Another kind of pressure is your own reconciliation of the person that you thought you would be in a relationship versus the person that you have become in a relationship. And so, you know, there are a lot of internal conversations about which path to choose. And I honestly think that a lot of times the decisions are so difficult, it's not black or white, it's not crystal clear. But you do reach a point. I think there are two mental lines in the sand that you cross. The first one is understanding. We're going to use the relationship as the example. The first one is understanding and finally accepting that, yes, there are a bunch of good things about the relationship, but there's also some things that aren't so good, and that you have reached a point where you've accepted that it's not going to get better. there's sort of a finality to that, that you realize that the ceiling of the progress in the relationship is not where you need it to be. Okay, so that's the first thing. It's that, and that's a pretty hard thing to accept, right? Because you're basically saying there's no hope. Okay. The second part is doing something about it. And I think a lot of people live in between those two lines in the sand. You know, they've sort of, in their heart, they've accepted it. They've tried everything that they know how to try. And they feel maybe even restrained, constricted. Maybe they're like in a little mental prison, or their life, they feel like that they're not going where they want to go. But then how do you actually physically then take the actions to get out? And you have many reasons for staying in it. I just gave you one. What will people think of my family or me? Mm-hmm. And then there's other ones, which is, will that bring me a freedom? But what if the freedom is worse than what I have now? What if I should just be grateful for what I have instead of thinking about, am I being too selfish? So there's lots of, I'm going to take this risk. I'm going to leave a relationship, and then what if I'm lonely, or what if I never find somebody else? You go through a lot of back and forth this way, and these are very powerful emotions and thoughts. And this path of least regret has helped me make some of these decisions, and really helped me have the courage to go through the really hard decisions and actions, and the discomfort and the pain of them, both for myself and the implications for others, right? And be able to make it through. And I'm very open about this. When I got divorced, the therapist that I spoke to was critical in helping me through emotionally this time. And I don't think I would have come out the way I did if I hadn't had that help. And I used to think when I was 19 or 20 that the weak people needed a therapist, and that it was a sign of weakness. But no. And when it comes to grief, I think when you are grieving yourself, and we talked about this a little bit before, but when you're grieving in another presentation, but when you're grieving yourself, what you're really hoping is that somebody else will understand your grief and try and see your loss through their eyes. And in doing so, they validate your grief, and they validate for you what you're feeling is really important. That the loss of this person is very, very important. And so when the tables are turned and somebody else is grieving, that's the biggest gift you can give them, because you can provide a sense of nurturing to them by sharing in their grief with them and explaining to them that you care about them and their grief, and therefore it's very important.
I mean that was really, really so well put. So at the end of the day, you still got to be able to, weigh things in your mind in terms of, but the path of least regrets, when I hear things, and there's some actions I take. I'm going to write a book later in the future, Dr. Koka, about at the speed of thought. At the speed of thought, there's nothing that I think about. If I think about it and I think it's something I need to do, I don't waste time in getting it done. That's the way I live my life. It's something I need to do, and I have thought it through. I just do it because if I don't do it, I'm going to be feeling bad about, I should have done, what if I did this? I'm going to share a story. I'm going to show a clip in a few minutes after this comment. I heard that a community in Nigeria was destroyed they had some communal clashes. And I saw bodies on the ground. And and I'm far away. I can't. It's as though you're far away. You can't do anything. And something says, no, you don't need to be there. You just need to get resources and people. I told myself, I want to rebuild that village. I want to go in there. That's just occurred to me that if I didn't do it, I will feel so bad because what can you do? You can't bring back the lives that have been lost. I told somebody, go find the lady that has the house and those kids that were slaughtered. I need to build our house, and I'm right here. I'm like, we're going to raise the resources and I'll show the clip right now. But before that, I got into, you are the president of the International College of Prosthodontists. So I guess you understand about what I'm going to say. I applied for residency in a particular school and I got accepted. But just at that point in time, it wasn't convenient for my family for me to be going back to school. And, being a student is not easy. In terms of financially, you have a family and it's like, you don't want to be, I got to consider them. But in my mind, it was something I need to do in my life. If I don't train as a prosthodontist, I will never be happy. Dr. Sree, Dr. Koka, I said, you know what? So I tried practicing for a little bit, and I practiced, and I saw the kind of dentures or whatever we were making, and like, this is where I don't want to be. And the courage to, when you start working and making some money, it's very hard to go back to school, very difficult. And right now, it's like, though I'm suffering. But the fact that the satisfaction I received from just the quality of what I do and the education and the interaction. So that decision to go back to school has brought me online to have a course. So I knew it was something, if I missed that, I knew there was this restlessness. So can you speak about that? What comes upon one to make you, how do you know that is something this is your sweet spot right here?
I think when you get into it, you'll know it. I feel like I'm in it. I don't think 5 years ago I was in it. I will tell you that in my experience, people, when they think about the decisions that they make, and you've made this decision about going back to school, I think a trap that a lot of people fall into is that when they decide to make a change, they feel like they need to have a lot of clarity about how that change will change their life, like what will be the benefit. So you went back to school. So I went back and did my MBA in 2011. I started and I finished in 2013. And the number of people that said to me, why are you doing an MBA? Like, what good is this going to do you? I mean, is there a job title or a role that you're looking for that this MBA will help you get to? And my answer was, I have no idea where this is going to take me. But I think that the people I will meet and the knowledge I will gain, and if I can learn from all the new experiences and become wiser, it will take me to a place where I would never have been able to be, and from which hopefully I can have a bigger impact and make a bigger difference in the world. Okay? So would I be on this call with you if I hadn't done the MBA? I don't think so. Would you be on this call with me if you hadn't done pros at Michigan? I don't think so. But did either one of us, could we ever have thought that when I started the MBA and that you started pros, that we would be on this call together at this minute? No, it wasn't part of the plan, was it? But you go down a path, you have to have a sense of peace, a sense of acceptance that you don't know exactly where it's going to end up. But if you associate with good people and you do things for the right reasons, you're going to go somewhere really cool and somewhere that matters to you and a place where you will have no regrets. Now, you want to have peace, but you also want to have a little bit of a healthy tension. When I graduated from MIT, the graduation day, the president, giving his speech to all the graduates, he said this, and this has been a blessing and a curse in my life already, okay? He said, your job is not to go out and solve the world's problems. Your job is to go out and solve the world's biggest problems. Okay, now, you can sort of shrink from that and like, holy cow, I want to do that. Who am I? Or you can say, all right, well, it's a challenge at least. Whether I solve them or not, I don't want to have the regret that I didn't try. Okay. And so, hopefully that adds some context to
Dr. Koka, I'm going to talk about this. This is this is very, very touching for me, but I have to talk about it because when it related to my mother in the hospital. So I was in touch with a doctor who was treating her, and I have some knowledge of pathogenesis. I mean, I understand exactly what is going on, and I'm talking to other experts. I'm like, because this is my mother here. This is not another patient. So I told him, don't mind. I hope you don't mind. I'm going to be calling you. I need to find out exactly what you're doing and what you are not doing and what can be done. And I'm like, I'm going to regret if certain actions are not taken. Are you trying your best? Are you doing everything that can be done? You know, is this not about what money can buy? Are you making efforts to use all the resources we have in modern science to make sure that this woman in your care is comfortable? I'm like, I'll be filled with regret if we didn't try. And the doctor was a little dismissive. It's like, you know, she's an elderly lady. I mean, she's believed, you know. That is not a diagnosis, sir. That is not a diagnosis. I mean, you know, I'm like, is this how you guys practice medicine in that part of the world? This is unacceptable. I'm like, you have to try. I think we have to go all the way. You know, I'm like, any expert we need to call. We need to call. If we need to call somebody else, if it's something you don't know how to do, you say, and then we will call the experts. There are experts who can do that. Everybody is an expert of some sort. And the doctor was a little dismissive, and I'm like, come on, man, I'm not going to sit down here and wait for you. You know, that is where you are. We're going to bring whatever experts to try. You know, and that is what we did. And we could have done more, but you know, there's just that, I don't know what to call it, sweet spot of time. There's a time to take action you know. So what should people, how should people go for, in terms of excellence, how should what you have just said and the drive, what connects that and the drive for excellence?
Yeah, so it's pretty clear that people need to prioritize. The first thing you need to do is say, what really matters? Okay, how much of your day are you spending on things and your energy? You don't get this time back, right? You don't get this energy back. How much of that can you be spending on things that really matter versus things that are not that important, right? And when you think about the things that are really important to you, you're going to come back to the same stuff. Your family, the impact you're having on the world around you, love, compassion, kindness, these are the things that really matter. And I'm not sure we're very good at, as societies these days, at keeping these things at the forefront of our thoughts and conversations. So that's the first thing that you have to do. You can't be everything to everyone. So you also have to accept that there's only so much I can do, whether it's because of distance or resources. But everything, just like you described with your mother and the doctor, everything that you can do, hopefully you feel that you're going to take that bull by the horns and you're going to do all that. And because you don't want to look back and say, I wasted my life. That is my biggest fear, is that I'm going to get to the end of my life and say, God, I wasted it. You know, look what I've been given, good health, good education. And I didn't make it count as much as I could have. Now, So I think these conversations you have with yourself all come back to a certain word which begins with the letter P, which is permission. Are you able to give yourself permission to be the best person that you can be? Okay? Or are you going to let other things, such as, well, you know, success is driven by whether I live in this kind of house or I drive that kind of car? Do you really think that matters? The research is pretty clear, and I think in our hearts we know as well, that accumulating material things does not bring us happiness, and certainly doesn't change the world for the better. It might change our world at a level of convenience and how we enjoy the world, but I don't see myself as being on this planet in order to take what the world can give me. I figure I don't know, to me it seems like I should be figuring out how I can give something to the world. So, you know, I hope that's...
Awesome. So I'm just going to show this while we move on to what I want to talk about. So this is our mother right there. I mean, I continue to celebrate her. That, we remember her for her jokes. My mom knows how to crack jokes. So I just the memories of all the things. If you call her on the phone, she's going to crack you up. She's going to say something. And I would remember her today. And she's and there's some things she said, Dr. Koka, that continues to motivate me to do what I do. She said, you've gone to a lot of education in your lives, and yes, she said, but I didn't go to school like you, but I have a sense of investment. I know how to make investment. She said, I have investments, and my investments are yielding, and they don't depreciate. That is what she sat me down. She's like, I know you're schooled in Nigeria, you're schooled abroad, but I need you to check it out and see if you have, if you have investment. And I said, Mommy, I do have investments. I invest in the life of other people. That is what you have taught me to invest. And so my investment, I count, making people happy. That is my primary, that is why I'm here, Dr. Koka. I figured it out. I'm like, yeah, that is why I am here in life. You got to know, I don't know if you're watching right now, and do you know why you are here? Do you know why you are here on the planet? If you don't know, you're going to just look back and you're going to waste time. And that sweet spot, you wouldn't even know, because you wouldn't even know when you miss it, because you're not looking out for fulfillment. So I found out that is making lives of other people better. I just want to show a little clip, and you let me know how much time you have, Dr. Koka. I'm just going to show this clip is for it's for three minutes. I'm going to play it, and so that others can see what I found. I found that I needed to make other people happy, and if I didn't do it, I was going to be filled with regret, and that wasn't going to happen. Well, just watch this.
Health Society reaching out to you to make you aware of our current project in southern Kaduna, Nigeria. March of 2019, there was devastation in Nandu village. Herdsmen attacked this village and several lives were lost. Many people displaced, homes destroyed. But Healing Hands Health Society and our partners are helping to rebuild the lives of people in southern Kaduna. Work on this project has commenced, but there's still a lot to be done. We need you to join us in bringing help and hope to the people of Nandu village in Sanga local government area of Kaduna State. Many houses still need to be rebuilt. Many people still need to be relocated. Would you be a part of this? You can join us by buying a Justice and Peace t-shirt. This t-shirt is available in Kaduna, Abuja, Warri, Port Harcourt, Lagos, Benin. When you buy this t-shirt, you are contributing to the rebuilding of houses in southern Kaduna. Remember, you are making a difference. Bless you real good.
All right, so that was and some of these recordings I do them by myself. I just sit down at home and I'm like, okay, I'm going to do something. I just go online, record it, and making a difference. If you as I listen now, I look at the words that were chosen, making a difference, the lives, contributing to the lives of other people, and it just lines up with exactly what you were saying. So when I go back, I listen to what you said, and you said, the only way you can truly be happy, you got to give stuff away. Can you talk about that, as you close?
Yeah, the research is pretty clear, and it's compelling, that people who accumulate wealth and possessions, the fulfillment that they get from doing that hits a plateau. And even if you have 4 cars or 3 houses and whatever it is, 6 diamond rings, you're not any happier. The happiness comes when you give that away, when you change the life of other people. The research is unbelievably strong that when you go from what I call savoring the world, where you're enjoying the world, you're eating at the fancy restaurants, driving the nice cars, living in the flash house. When you go from savoring the world to saving the world, all the money and the resources that you were putting into yourself, you can only be so happy. Giving it away, helping others who have less than you have to realize that if you're in a position to do that, you are one of the lucky ones. Okay? Most people on this planet would trade places in a heartbeat with me for what I have. Probably billions of people. I don't have to worry about a roof over my head, food in my stomach, clothes on my body, shelter. But the amount of people in the world who cannot, when they wake up in the morning, know that they're going to get those 4 things. I think it's become too easy for people to forget about those people.
Yeah.
And maybe that's just humans in general. This has been happening for tens of thousands of years. There's always been the people that have a lot and the people that don't. And for some reason, societies just keep functioning with this disparity. But within me, I just think that that's a disparity that if I'm not trying to address that in some way, in some form every day, then I'm not fulfilling, I'm not maximizing the gifts that I've been given.
No, sincerely, I think I think everyone, if you're watching, if you have any questions and you want to just send it out on the link there. I know a couple of people are there just watching, and people are, this video is going to go forth. I encourage you to reach out to us. Look around you, look in your neighborhood. If you want to live life, then let's, in every religion, giving away, in every religion around the world, true religion is to care for the orphans and the widows, people who have less. Every religion says that. So why are we not doing it? Dr. Koka, why? What are the barriers to giving? What are the barriers? What is the root of selfishness?
One thing I'll give you is what I call the curse of good enough. Okay? The curse of good enough is that when you have very little, and you are functioning at the level of maybe not even having enough food, when you're living at that level, you hear people say, if I can get out of this life and have some stability, I will give back to other people who are struggling with me now. But for whatever reason, a lot of times when people get to that stage, they don't give back. I have a friend here who's part of a charity dental clinic in Mexico. And he's had many people who wanted to go to dental school come to Mexico and volunteer in this clinic. And the only thing he said to me that he asks them to do is when they get into dental school and they're finished, to come back and volunteer. This guy had done this for 15 to 20 years. And all these applicants want to be able to write on their dental school application, I volunteered and this is where I volunteered. He goes, the only thing about this program that hurts me deep inside is that none of those students have ever come back to volunteer again as dentists. Yeah, it's pretty sobering, right? And I come back to this word permission. People are going to look at you if you give away what you have, especially when you don't have a tremendous amount. You have enough to be comfortable, but you are willing to give away still and take yourself to a point where maybe you're not so comfortable. Other people will look at you and think, you're nuts. Why are you doing that? And the answer is because deep inside of you, you know it's the right thing to do. Deep inside of you, you don't want to regret that you hoarded. You didn't give to others in need what you could have. And lastly, it's because you didn't give yourself the permission. Other people, you got to stop worrying about what other people think of you and start worrying about what you're going to think of yourself at the end of your life. And if you want to like who you were, then give it away. And you will yourself.
Thank you so very much. That was I mean, these are life lessons that you would need, you need to teach to your children. What we are discussing now, these are things that you go to a school and you pay thousands of dollars to hear. We have heard it for free, and maybe I hope it brings value to your life. Thank you guys for watching, and I want to thank Dr. Sree Koka for just the fact that I have access to you just to talk and what it has done to our webinar series is amazing. I mean, it took somebody saying, talk to Dr. Koka. Dr. Michael Razuk says, yeah, don't worry, just tell Dr. Koka that I sent you. And from that relationship to this one, and now we have all kinds of relationship with several people from around the world, from Spain, from France, from everywhere. Thank you so much for being who you are, and hopefully we're going to get you to come back and talk dentistry at some point.
All right, happy to do it. Whatever you need.
All right, then. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Healing Hands Health Society presents Dental Webinar Series. We have planned a series dental webinars to keep you abreast of current practice. This series on prosthodontics will be via Zoom, Facebook Live. Presenters are drawn from dental schools in the USA, private practitioners from around the world. To register for future webinars, visit www.hhands.org/dental-training. For future inquiries, contact Facilitator